Welcome to this edition of Trekking Across the Universe. Depending on where you are, it's either Saturday or it's Sunday. Whichever it is, it's the end of August. So crazy. It's the end of August. September 1st is Monday. Craziness, craziness, craziness. Well, we are here to talk about the last episode that was aired of Strange New Worlds. All I can say is I'll start. I was disappointed. It was not my favorite. I did like it a little better the second time, and it's probably because I was behind and I had to watch two episodes right together. But anyway, not one of my favorites. I was worried about this episode when I saw previews way early, like almost 9 months ago. And I go, what do you mean they're all Vulcan? So that's all I'm going to say. So either one of you, your overall thoughts?
Go ahead, Aaron.
Hey, I just thought it was a meh episode. I enjoyed it better than the Starfleet one from last week. Um, it was very much comedy all the way through. Um, yeah, it was. There were parts where I laughed. There were parts where it just felt a little bit absurd. But overall, meh is my response.
It's like an oopsie.
Yeah.
It was an oopsie. That's clever.
Greg.
Yeah, I really didn't care for it much either. I've said it before, I'll say it again. With a limited number of episodes in a very short season, um, you know, this is what they're like their third ridiculous episode this
Yeah.
season, and it's such a waste. If you had a 26 episode season and every fifth one was fine, you'd still get, you know,
You still get a lot of good ones.
you still get a lot of good ones or the potential for a lot of good ones. Star Trek's about sci-fi, and I want sci-fi. I want you know more than they just go in orbit and fix something and disappear. It's like I was very disappointed with the initial premise that they had to fix a reactor. I thought that it could have gotten really interesting on that premise. And then they were going to go on shore leave, and they were at the shore leave planet and never went
Never
to the
saw
shore leave
anything.
planet.
No. Mm-mm. At least we didn't
Um,
see it. So
so all we saw was beautiful CG of the system where the first planet was, and then the other planet. It was lacking. The performances were. I mean, I got the impression from Anson Mount that either he didn't want to do it, he was following bad direction, he was mocking like Data, and then the director said go with it. I just can't figure out what the hell they were doing with Anson Mount in this episode. The girl who played Uhura, again, awesome performance. She was very believable in her role. I mean, she wasn't over the top, she wasn't too much the other way. And I enjoyed La'an's arc. I thought that was interesting. Um, but I think they could have done better. And for me, like the best part of the episode was the interactions between Number One and Patton Oswalt's character, and then Spock
Mhm.
and Patton Oswalt's character. I mean, but they could have done a short that was comedic with Patton Oswalt, and it would have been fun. But no, they wasted a whole episode on this notion.
Yeah, they like could have put that part in as a separate thing and written a whole new episode around it. Or something.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it had charming moments, like when everybody was sitting in Pelias' quarters. Of course, I love Carol Kane, and if you're gonna do silly, she knows how to do silly, right? And it
Yes.
worked in that scene in this context. And It just, I don't know. It was just an overall disappointment.
No, yeah, I understand. Yeah, this is probably going to be a very short conversation. Anybody in the chat room, throw out a comment, and if it's appropriate, we will throw it up on screen. And
Yeah, give
your
us
thoughts,
talking points.
please do. There's people
Yeah.
watching; we see them, so please post something. We would appreciate it. I will say this, and I think I'll take Greg since I'm going to go first. One of my favorite moments was what you were just talking about, was when they're in Pella's quarters and just chatting. I mean, when Pella went, now you can't see my fan, but when she was going up top, and then she went, you know what that is? I just thought that was kind of funny.
Yes, that was good.
That was funny. Aaron, do you have a favorite moment? Same one, or did you have another one?
The moment I keep replaying in my head is actually from after the credits where Spock is talking to Doug, and he's like, give me 5. Now down low, and then he moves his hand, and Doug's like, you moved, and he's like, yes, that is because you are too slow. And I just thought that was so funny. That was just the delivery of it was so good. But I mean, yeah, to Greg's point, it could have been a short. You literally could have cut that bit out of the episode, and it would have made no difference to the overall part of the plot. And yeah, it probably would have been more enjoyable. But yeah, that's the thing. There's so many things in this episode, I think, that had no bearing on the main story, or we never saw it actually affect the main story. We didn't see that Doug sort out the Katra situation. We didn't see the thing at the start with them fixing the reactor. That might have been more interesting had they been stuck on the planet and they were stuck as Vulcans, and Spock was with them, and they were really like xenophobic towards him, or whatever the deal with him is. But like, yeah, we just never. It was like a bottle show where the expense was in the makeup and costume. Like it, yeah. So
Speaking of costume, the copper threaded cloth was gorgeous. I want a shirt made out of that. And they really went all out on the Vulcan garb.
Oh yeah.
I was under the impression that style of garb was ceremonial.
yeah,
And also, why, even when they were back, did they remain in those costumes? Except for the fact that they were beautiful.
because that's what Vulcans wear.
The Admiral wasn't wearing
Yeah.
it.
But yeah, you're right. It was a good blend between like the Carbon Creek Enterprise like outfits where they were all in like the copper flight suits, and then like a mix of like the original series like ceremonial mock time outfits.
Yeah, or like the outfit that Sarek wore when he was, in Star Trek 4. But I mean, it looked to me, I thought that was like a formal outfit. And like all the stuff all over them was like supposed to represent family and things like that. Well, at least in the fanon. Maybe not for real, but that's what people made it out to be. I did like the Kirk Scotty interactions, especially when they were trying to deal with La'an. I thought the whole thing with her taking Scotty's pad was very funny. And I even said to Sue at that point, I'm like, oh, she's acting like a Romulan.
Actually, that's something to talk about. Like I didn't pick up on the fact that she was a Romulan until I read a review. And then before the show, we were talking, and I asked Greg whether it was obvious to him, and he was like 100%. It was so obvious that she was a Romulan, and she was, hell bent on war, and she was into these weapons, and she was going to take over parts of space and stuff. But yeah, I don't know why, but I didn't pick up on that unless it was explicitly stated, hang on, she's behaving like a Romanian, which they wouldn't know, obviously. But yeah, I don't know why it just.
I
Yeah,
have to say, her styling was the best of all of them. I loved her hair like that. I thought her makeup was perfect. And she just moved right into that character so well. Her performance was really good. The girl played hers performance was really good. Pike and Christine. Every time I watch Christine, all I could think of was young Sheldon. And then with Pike, it's like if I was a Vulcan, I'd be offended. It was like worse than a caricature.
I think it was like pitched at like the shouty Vulcan, but then it wasn't consistent. There were lots of times where they talk about the fact, he keeps shouting or why is he like that? But then in some parts of the episode he wasn't. It wasn't the same characterization. Maybe they changed it halfway through and then somehow it didn't match.
Oh, and the
But
worst was like when he went right up to Babs and he's like said he was like shouting in his ear, and I'm like, I've never seen like I've never had the inkling that Vulcans have no respect for somebody else's personal space.
it was
Yeah,
it
I
was
mean,
kind of like being like an academy like commandant. That's
yeah,
how he was. Yeah,
and the hair. How can a serum change your hairstyle? And how can a serum get? I just couldn't understand the. Yes, it's okay, maybe that was the science fiction element, but I mean, it wasn't plausible
yeah.
that it would, because it was based on Spock, that all of a sudden they would be acting so rigid, and then you know I would have expected like the whole time they're like trying to deal with controlling their emotions, or they're trying, and Spock had to mind meld them, or there was so many ways they could have pulled this off and haven't it had it been better.
Yeah. Yeah.
but they
Especially
didn't.
because like we're used to this show dealing with changing someone's race with like prosthetics. Like that's, they infiltrate a planet, they go and get cosmetic surgery and they don't have to take pills and drugs and things like that to do that, and it doesn't change the whole biology. So when they do something like this, I feel like it should be a bit more thought through.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the very first episode they did it with a drug, with some sort
Yep.
of gene
Yeah,
therapy,
Yep.
but it just changed them physically.
Yep.
And I don't know. And then, but I mean, I thought Spock did a good job. I thought he showed the right amount of being annoyed for where he is as a Vulcan exploring his humanity. I think the after credits grin was like almost like a fourth wall thing.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
But for the most part, I mean, it's like you could tell he was acting like he was trying to maintain his composure and not doing very good at it.
Hmm. Well, is there anything else you wanted to bring up about this episode, or are we going to have one of the shortest review shows we've ever had?
I think so. Had a few good moments, had a lot of stinker moments.
Yeah.
They could have done it solely with La'an being transformed and then trying to take over the ship. They could have, done so many things differently and more plausibly and still have a little fun with it and not be totally off the wall. So,
Yeah, but they chose that way, unfortunately. So, Aaron, anything you wanted to bring up, or is that pretty much it?
Not really. It's just, yeah, it just felt a bit. Even the ending was a bit anticlimactic. We didn't really see how they sorted the issue out with the other characters. It just,
no.
yeah, we just saw the dance between La'an, the dance / fight between La'an and Spock, but that was very specific to her problem, whereas the other characters, I don't
Yeah, we never saw what he had to do there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got Sue sitting next to me, and she's like, "Oh my God, are they gonna dance fight?" I'm like, "I'm afraid so."
Sure enough, yeah. But yeah, even like, the fact that they were transformed into a different species and they didn't want to turn back, that could have almost been like a bit of a sort of moral messaging type thing, a bit like Tuvix, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But even that wasn't explored. It was just
It was just said, and they moved on.
it had no depth to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Belia's line, then we have to respect their choice. End of discussion.
Yeah.
So you did, yeah, we didn't even get that,
Yeah.
for an episode that didn't do a lot of science-y space action stuff. We didn't even get that psychological discussion and ethical discussion.
No, they just skipped it over.
It was very strange. It was a very strange episode.
Yeah, shame on you, Star Trek.
Well, I will say that a consensus, probably this was definitely not one of our favorite episodes.
Yeah, and I think there's mixed out there too. And it's, I want to love this show. And, and it had nothing to, my hate for it has nothing to do with the fact that it's new Trek. I've even started, Paul Wesley has even started to grow on me. I actually liked him in this episode too. And
When La'an knocked him on the floor, is that what you liked?
oh yeah. Yeah.
See, I knew it. Mm-hmm.
See, that's fight.
Yeah, that was a fight.
That's more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestling.
That wasn't even wrestling. That was just knockdown, drag out. Boom.
As long as you get sweaty, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
sorry. This has to be family friendly.
Yes, it does. Or we will ban you. That'll be fun.
Oh no.
Yes. Right before tomorrow's podcast with our guest from the
I will be.
librarians.
I will behave. I will. I will not think of Lon working out. I'll behave.
Good.
I'm sure we'll go into it a little bit more next week when our other two co-hosts are back.
Yes.
Unfortunately, they were both unable to be with us this evening.
That's correct. Yeah. And so hopefully, next week we'll have a nice episode to talk about. That's what I'm hoping.
I know.
Because that will be episode 9.
Yeah.
And then there's only 10, and then that's it for the season. So.
Yeah. I know we said we weren't going to be doing like stars or anything, thumbs up or thumbs down, but I have to say this episode, I would not give it 4.5 Vulcans. I would probably give it 2 Vulcans.
And one was for Carol Kane, and one was for
Lon.
I'd say La'an and Uhura carried the Vulcan thing really well.
Mm-hmm. So there you go.
I think they did a great job with their characters. They stayed their characters and had the Vulcan stuff on top of it. I'm looking forward to watching the young lady that plays Uhura grow and be in more things after this series because she's really good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She is. Well, is that about it, everybody? Or
I think so.
Greg, is up for you?
Yeah, otherwise I'll start rambling.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, everyone, thank you for coming. I knew this was going to be short, but hopefully next week's is going to be a little bit longer because we'll probably discuss more about this episode when our 2 other co-hosts will be able to join us, and we'll have a new episode to talk about. So everyone, take care, and bye-bye.